The world is going through changes. Changes happening at a speed that we have never seen before. This is leading to disruption, chaos, panic, fear, hysteria, and a turbulent economy and marketplace. How do you protect your wealth in a turbulent world? How do you invest for cash flow in alternative assets to escape the rat race in times of uncertainty? How do you decentralize yourself, your family, your community, your business, and your investments to become sovereign and escape the matrix? If you are looking for strategies, tactics, and techniques to escape the rat race and matrix, you are in the right place. My name is MC Lobsher, and this is Cashflow Ninja. This is Cashflow Ninja. I'm MC Lobsher. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode and spending the most valuable resource, your time, once again with me. Everything Cashflow Ninja is at cashflowninja.com. That's cashflowninja.com. We've got podcasts, books, we've got reports, webinars, and much, much more. And don't forget to subscribe to the #1 newsletter in the alternative wealth strategy and alternative asset investing space, the Wealth Dojo. You can subscribe to the Wealth Dojo by going to cashflowninja.com/subscribe. I've got a fantastic show for you today. I'm joined by Brent Carlson with Corporate Capital. Brent, great to see you.
Hey, MC, how you doing?
Great. I've been looking forward to this conversation. So for folks that are not familiar with you and what you get up to, can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with my listeners and my viewers, and also what you get up to today?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the relationship, MC, we've established and the help we've been able to provide thus far. A little bit about Corporate Capital. My wife and I started Corporate Capital back in 2013. So December 1st will be our 11-year anniversary. We specialize in a unique slew of services, anywhere from corporate structuring. We help our clients with their bookkeeping, accounting. We help them with their estate planning. So our company is a full-service incorporating firm out of Las Vegas, Nevada. We do work with clients in all 50 states. We have clients international as well. But we really look at business owners or investors to see how are they structured. Are they structured properly? Are there any changes that can be made? More importantly, asset protection to some people is just as important as taxes. So we look at that to see, are you being taxed properly? Are you doing things what is most advantageous for you? And I'll get into that a little bit and talk about some of those tax planning strategies in different states. But our primary focus, we do offer other services, but our primary focus here is corporate structuring, bookkeeping, accounting, and tax. And then I have 3 attorneys that do our estate planning and trust, which we'll talk about towards the end. Again, we are a full service company in Las Vegas that offers services all over the country.
What corporate structuring strategies can you share with my listeners and viewers?
I've been in the industry since 2005. And from day one, when I started in this industry, you always learned what was the best state to incorporate in. And when I first started, obviously I went through some training. I thought if businesses were in their home state, it only makes sense for them to have a corporation or an LLC where they live. However, you are free to choose any state you wish to incorporate, regardless of where you live. So since most people want the best tax treatment for their type of income and the best asset protection, we actually form a lot of our clients in either Nevada or Wyoming. And I know you're very familiar with the advantages and disadvantages of that. And there's really no disadvantages of incorporating in states like Nevada, Wyoming, Delaware, especially Nevada and Wyoming, because there's no franchise tax, there's no corporate tax. So by being incorporated or having your business headquartered there, you are putting a brick wall between your business life and your personal life, or your business or your investments and your personal life. If you have an entity in any other state, they do allow different ways the corporate veil can be penetrated. And a lot of people don't know this. One example in Utah, of all states, if you commingle funds on accident, and this happens all the time when we're looking at our clients' records. If they commingle their funds, their corporate veil can be penetrated, and that means they can be set aside, not treated as a corporation, and now they have the liability of being sued personally. So just a quick education, and this is something that you guys would be able to do a quick search on Google, best state to incorporate in. You're going to see Nevada and Wyoming primarily come up. Now, everyone has heard Delaware. When I was in school, I remember when I was in 5th grade in Miss Davis's class, question 15 was, what was the best state to incorporate in? And that was Delaware at the time. So for businesses that are looking to go public, that have that type of backbone, then yes, Delaware is still the best state to incorporate. For us private businesses, for us real estate investors, for us setting up policies, there's different things that we can do, and we don't have to do it in your home state. And let me tell you why I don't want that to happen. If you have the LLC, if you're running a business like corporate capital, a day-to-day business, or an insurance company, you have a lot of risk. You're dealing with the public on a daily basis. So if, for example, let's say you're a listener and you're in Florida and you have a Florida LLC, if that LLC gets sued, then they can penetrate the corporate veil if they can find a reason, and they will pierce the corporate veil and attach your personal assets. So by avoiding that, we simply set up our clients in Nevada or Wyoming. And again, because there's no state tax, it's the same thing as if you had a Pennsylvania LLC or a New York LLC. But the difference is now is you're going to be registered to do business in those states as a Wyoming company, for example. So now if you ever do get sued or that portfolio gets sued, they can go after the assets inside of the business, just like they can go after the assets inside of corporate capital, but they can't go after me personally. So, there's different things you should do with your structure. For example, my partners and I own the building that we're in. So we have our building in its own separate LLC. And so that asset isn't in my day-to-day operation. So if my day-to-day operation gets sued, you have your E&O, you have your insurance, and that's all that should take place in business. Things are going to happen. Shit hits the fan, unfortunately. But if it does, it doesn't mean that my wife and 4 boys or your family should be at risk of losing everything. So by simply having an entity in Nevada and Wyoming truly gives you the peace of mind of knowing that your corporate veil cannot be penetrated and they cannot sue you personally. Now, I get asked this question a lot during my presentations as far as, what if I already have a corporation or an LLC in place? That's a very common question. Most states will actually allow you to convert your corporation or LLC out of that state into Wyoming or into Nevada. Now, when you convert it, a lot of times your original articles from that state will show when you incorporated. However, the new date with Nevada or Wyoming would show, let's say September 26, 2024. So a lot of our clients, we will either help them dissolve their current company and help them set up a new one so they have this protection and they're registered properly. Or what we do, MC, for our clients, I have a very successful life coach in New York who has a very successful LLC. He has been doing this for a long, long time. He's one of those coaches that are like $5,000, $10,000 an hour, but he's worth it. And he is very successful, as you can imagine. So what we did was we set him up with a holding company in actually Nevada for him. And we set up the holding company to own the certificates of his business. So those of you who do currently have an LLC and are thinking, well, should I switch? Should I make the conversion? You can set up a holding company that would own the stock or the membership interest of your current entity or entities. So what happens now is if that business were to get sued that you guys are operating out of, and they go to sue the owner is a Wyoming holding company. So then at that point, when that happens, Wyoming law, Nevada law, it clearly states that you cannot pierce the corporate veil and sue the individuals personally. So by simply adding that simple layer or this holding company gives you that reassurance and gives you that personal asset protection, which in my opinion is very, very, very important. Now, with your LLC, as I mentioned, we do form them in all 50 states, and I have formed them in all 50 states. The only time I typically form a domestic company is if someone has a professional license. They're like a PLLC, and they are like an attorney where they're required to be a corporation in that state. But for those of us who are just, working, building a portfolio, adding some rentals here and there, doing some policies, we can have these private entities. And the beautiful thing about Wyoming is they actually don't put your name on public record like other states. So there's anonymity in Wyoming. So to a lot of people, that is important, not having someone be able to Google an LLC and see that, MC or Brent Carlson is the owner of that company. So Wyoming provides that. And that's why Wyoming back in 2008, they started to adapt all the same statutes as Nevada. Now, we all know how Nevada was built. I don't need to get into that, 60s and 70s. So Nevada law is very, very powerful. That's why Nevada and Wyoming incorporate more than any states combined throughout the years, because of the protection. And because there's no tax, you don't have to worry about paying a tax in Wyoming and then paying a tax in Connecticut. So nothing changes in that regard, but the only thing that changes is the protection that you're going to receive. Now, with an LLC, in most cases, we will set up an LLC for our clients because an LLC is a lot easier to maintain. You don't have to do the shareholder meeting minutes, the director meeting minutes. The beautiful thing about an LLC is it can be taxed however you want. So for those of you who do have a current structure in place and feeling like you're paying a lot of money, you may want to look at the way you're being taxed. For example, you can have your LLC taxed as a C corporation, which I have an LLC that's taxed as a C corporation for different reasons. You can have your LLC taxed as a partnership. It can be a flow-through single member, or it can even be taxed as an S corporation.
What are some tax strategies that you can share with my listeners and viewers?
When it comes to tax strategies, I am very aggressive when it comes to minimizing my tax liability at the end of the year. Now, I'm aggressive within the IRS tax code. For example, I have 4 children. 3 of those kids are under 18. So I have a family management LLC where I pay from corporate capital to my family management LLC, and then I pay my kids to work for this LLC throughout the year. Now, right now, this year, it's $13,700 that you can pay your child and actually not report that. So that's nearly $40,000 example of income of dollar for dollar that goes back into your pocket that you use for their purchases, but you don't get taxed on that. So that is a deduction for your business, and the IRS doesn't get paid on it. The state that you're in doesn't get paid on it. Another thing that I do is the Augusta rule. And for those of you that are in front of a computer, look up the Augusta rule. The Augusta rule, most people qualify for that have businesses or entities. And that is something where 14 times a year, you can actually have a meeting in your home, wherever you can have a meeting at an establishment. Now, obviously, if you were to go to an establishment like the Wynn in Las Vegas or the Empire State Building, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money to have that meeting. So what we have done as a company is we have gotten all the comps from all the major cities across the country of what it would cost to hold a meeting at that establishment. So the IRS, and that's why they put a cap on it of 14 times, because otherwise I would do it, 50 times a year. But they have a cap of 14 times where you can have this meeting, pay yourself $2,000 on average per meeting, and that $28,000 goes back to you. I write the check every month to my wife. It goes in our personal bank account, and I do not have to claim that as income. So I just gave you an example where roughly $68,000 is going, back into the family, where the company is getting the write-off, and we're all winning. And for example, my 16-year-old in January, we ended up pulling 10 grand out of his account, and we drove to St. George, bought him a little 2014 Lexus, and that was his first car. But instead of that money going to dad, me getting taxed, 30, 35%, whatever the tax bracket is that year, I saved roughly $3,500 on that $10,000 purchase. So those are the types of things that we like to look at. So again, if you have a corporation or an LLC and you want to go over how you're being taxed, go over what your gross revenues are, we would be able to tell you within just a couple minutes if a tax election would need to be made. So when we help our clients, whether we set up an LLC or we're just a commercial registered agent, we offer the ongoing consulting. We will do as many Zoom calls or as many phone calls or as emails as it takes for you to understand what you're doing, or even as an existing client, anytime questions come up, you're looking to do a 1031 exchange, you're doing fix and flips. At that point in time, you would be able to contact my firm, and we don't bill by the hour. I don't play that game where if you call or send an email, you're going to get a 15-minute hit. We don't do that. We just offer a flat service, and if it makes sense, then we help our clients with those types of services, and then we offer the ongoing support. So if you have questions, if you get a lawsuit, you get a letter in the mail, all you have to do is call me or one of my assistants, and then we would address it right away and just make sure that things are being done properly. So compliance is a bad word to me, because we always want to make sure we're in compliance, because if we're not in compliance, then that is a reason why they can pierce the corporate veil. So if you have corporations, make sure you're doing your annual meeting minutes, your shareholder minutes. If you have an LLC, you can waive the minute each year, or you can actually hold those, which we help our clients actually hold meeting minutes every year, just so their record book is juiced up and looks professional and has all the documentation in the event they ever get sued or audited. The last thing I'm going to mention about LLCs, and we set up 99 LLCs to every 100 companies because of the flexibility. If you're in a state like Virginia, Tennessee, Indiana, Illinois, Wyoming, Nevada, that is a list of about 19 states that recognize what's known as a series LLC. I know a lot of you have multiple properties. Some of them, they may just be sitting in your name. Some of them may be sitting in their own individual LLC. I just had a client in Tennessee 1 month ago call me that had 19 properties that they need to put into an LLC. She literally called me to set up 19 LLCs. And obviously I would have absolutely loved that. That would have been an absolute, good, because we'd be the registered agent for all LLCs. She would have to pay for each LLC, but it wasn't the right thing by the client. So because she lived in the state of Tennessee, she was able to set up one LLC, which we ended up doing a Wyoming series LLC, and then we foreign filed it and registered it to do business in Tennessee. So now she has this one LLC, and I kind of use the prison example, probably a bad example, but I use it. So you have this prison, and each prisoner has their own cell, and that cell is to protect them when it's closed. And so the properties are the same thing. So you would have this master series LLC, and underneath it, you would have your first property in series A. This example I just gave you, we've already gone to series T. So all of those properties now are separated in their own individual series underneath the umbrella of one LLC. So instead of having 19 annual renewals each year with the state, instead of having to pay us 19 registered agent services, she only has to renew one entity, and all of that flows to this company. So those of you who are in real estate or looking to get into real estate, I would really encourage you to have that consultation, or at least look up series LLCs, because there's a lot of states that recognize them. And if you set it up in Wyoming, for example, and you start buying property in Tennessee, Texas, Indiana, we can now register that LLC in any state that you have these properties. Now, if they're going to be long-term rentals, we'd want you to register there so you're in compliance. If they're going to be fix and flips, we may not have to register you in that state depending on how long you're holding it. But those are all the types of things that we will address with you to make sure you understand, okay, what is going to help me the most tax-wise, and what is going to protect me from all of the other assets that we have. So again, those would be your options. LLCs, if you don't have one, if you're doing anything that causes any risk or liability, some people will say, well, I'm only making 5-10 grand. That is exactly why I would set up an LLC, because I don't want my little side hustle of consulting or whatever I'm doing, cleaning. I don't want that to affect my personal residence. I don't want that to affect my personal assets. So that's just as strong of a reason to have an entity in place as if you were a $60 million YouTuber client. It doesn't matter, because anything you do and represent in your name, you hold that risk and liability. And that is why we set up so many, Wyoming and Nevada companies.
My new book, Get Wealthy for Sure, the #1 financial strategy for business owners to multiply wealth predictably, just hit #1 on Amazon. So Get Wealthy for Sure is an Amazon #1 bestseller. In this book, you'll learn the wealth building secrets that the ultra rich have used for over 170 years. You'll learn how to create your own banking system using a dividend paying whole life insurance policy, allowing you to finance your business growth, invest in lucrative opportunities, and build generational wealth, all tax free and protected from market volatility. You'll also learn the proven strategies used by icons like Walt Disney, the Rockefellers, and top CEOs to grow their empires and get wealthy for sure. You'll learn how to build a team of expert financial professionals, implement tax-efficient strategies, and protect your assets from creditors. You'll also learn the power of thinking like the wealthy and aligning your capital for maximum impact so you can take control of your financial destiny. I also share a step-by-step aligned capital strategy that will guide you to a life of certainty, clarity, and predictability without falling victim to misinformation or settling for the status quo. If you want to get a free copy of my book, Get Wealthy for Sure, and only pay the shipping and handling, you could go to getwealthyforsure.com. That's getwealthyforsure.com. Question on the Corporate Transparency Act. What's going on there, and what's important for listeners and viewers to know about it?
I really appreciate you bringing that up. The BOI report is something that has been very, very frustrating for me and my clients. The department is called FinCEN, F-I-N as in Nancy, C-E-N. So the government put a new agency in place. So now we have the IRS. We have our state requirements for our entities that we have. Now they put together a new department called the FinCEN, which runs the Corporate Transparency Act. So the Corporate Transparency Act requires you to file a BOI, which stands for Beneficial Ownership Information Report. So any company that was formed prior to January 1st of this year, you do have until December 31st. Some of you that have formed in 2024, you only have 90 days to file this report. Or if you don't file this report, and this is such BS, it makes me so upset, but there's $500 per day penalty. They can impose up to a $10,000 fine. I have clients with 60 companies. That'd be $600,000 fine in January. And they can also throw you in prison for 2 years if you don't file this report. Now, the good thing about it is you only have to file it one time unless you have change in ownership or if your driver's license or passport expires. So what we have done is we actually put in a new division, upped our insurance. So we help all of these existing LLCs, even if we didn't form them, we can help you file this BOI report, because when they put this report out, they put out a 57-page compliance document, of course, right? Because they want to scare the heck out of us. So we've read through that document. We have filed over 300 of these reports year to date. And these reports, again, must be done within that 90-day time frame. So those of you who have set up an LLC for your real estate or for whatever reason this year, file that report, look into it immediately, or give us a call. Those of you who have entities prior to the beginning of the year, like myself, MC, you have until the end of the year. Now, I was the actual scapegoat, I guess. I was the first one for our company after our legal team looked at it, and our CFO. I was the one who filed my reports first, just to kind of lead by example. I knew it wasn't a suggestion. It was an absolute requirement. So the penalties are so severe. You don't have anything to hide. The IRS already knows what we own. They know if we own 25% or more of the company. I don't know why they can't share this information. But unfortunately, as of today, it will be intact. Now, maybe it gets vetoed next year, but unfortunately, that wouldn't happen until later in January to February. So at that point, we would have to have the fees waived. So I tell people, don't even put yourself in that position. Don't take chance at a $10,000 fine. It's a 4-page questionnaire that we can help you answer the questions, help you upload the passport or government issued ID, and then submit that report. But I'm very glad you brought that up, MC, because I talk to thousands of business owners throughout the year. And there's a very small percentage, even though my clients who have multiple entities with us had no idea this took place. So the way we handle it as a company is when we set up the LLC, we're the commercial registered agent. So every year when we call to make sure our clients file the annual report on time, we're bringing up this report to make sure that they don't overlook it. And as you can imagine, most of them are having us do it because they don't want to read the 57 pages or they don't want to take on the liability. And that is one thing that I decided to do is I am taking on that liability of the fines and the threat of prison. So once you enroll and have us do it, we will bug the crap out of you. We will stay on top of you. We will call you, email you weekly until it gets done because we need to do everything on our end to make sure it's filed on time. But yes, it's a very serious report. The fines, they will not remove them like they do with the IRS. That's another thing to bring up. If some of you filed late, or let's say you had penalties from 1 year, the IRS, we have never been denied. We're getting those penalties removed if it's your first time. So if you guys ever have something like that, that's something your CPA or accountant should be able to help with because they'll excuse it the first time, but they won't the second. But yeah, that BOI report doesn't go to the IRS. It's a separate department, and it is something that must be filed. So thank you again, MC, for bringing that up. I really appreciate that.
I just want to stress that at the time of recording, there's 3 months left of the year. So if you're listening to this or watching this, you have 3 months. And I also just wanted to share that this is not the IRS. This is the Financial Crimes Division that you have to file it with. So it's pretty serious stuff, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you mentioned the 3 months, MC, because one thing that I believe in is I believe in relationships. So with our clients, whether they have us help them with their taxes in 2025 for this year, or let's say they're looking for a new CPA, what we do as a company is we give them a quote and say, hey, for this many LLCs or this many rental properties in a W-2, we're going to charge you X amount of dollars. It's very competitive price. We're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive, but it's a flat fee that we provide our clients because we want them to have that relationship. We want them to call in. And as you guys all know, once December 31st comes and goes, there's nothing that we can do when it comes to tax planning. So when we're talking about rolling out the Augusta rule, when we're talking about structuring and paying your kids, that is something I've had 2 people this week that we're not doing the taxes until next March or April, but they enrolled because we don't charge by the hour. So now they get assigned to their CPA and accountant. We always work in teams of 2. So you always have someone that you can reach out to. And then what they do is they will work with our clients between now and the end of the year to review their 2023 return, look at what tax strategies can be implemented. Can you do the Augusta rule? Do you have kids that you could potentially pay? Because before that end of the year, we want to make sure we get as much out of a company as possible. So I'm glad you brought up the 3 months, not only for the BOI report, but also if you are looking for that type of guidance and consulting. Obviously, if you have a simple W-2, I probably won't hear from you. But if you do have an entity, we just want to make sure our clients take advantage of that. And that is something we proactively do, as opposed to a lot of accountants will just take your payment numbers and here's the tax return. If that's what you're looking for, we wouldn't be the best fit for that. But if you're looking for hands-on, you're looking for guidance, recommendations of where you should put things or how you can do them differently, then it would be worth a conversation for sure.
Brent, you've shared with me the importance of establishing credit for your business and how you can leverage the credit of your business. Can you share some of those strategies with my listeners and viewers?
So corporate capital, my company, even though we do more tax returns, a couple thousand tax returns a year and a couple thousand entities, we didn't name our company Corporate Capital Accounting or, Corporate Capital CPAs. We named it Corporate Capital because back in 2013, before I started my company, I actually built credit on corporate capital. So I went through a program, which there's a few vendors out there. There's actually only a few that will give a new LLC or corporation a line of credit. So like when we were 18, in order for us to build the credit, we had to get a credit card. They gave us a $500 limit. We either really screwed it up or we started building it up, right? I was one of those who kind of screwed up at the beginning, and then it hurt me for a little bit of time. And then I realized and matured and realized that credit's important. So I'm, back over the 8. But when in my 20s, I really didn't think it was that important. Well, it did come back and bite me when I was looking to start my company. And so what we did was we built the credit. So we register our clients with DMB. We get them a DUNS number. And then those 4 or 5 vendors that will work with new LLCs or existing businesses that don't have any credit history, there's 4 or 5 of them that we work with, and they will give new businesses a line of credit, maybe $50, maybe $100. So I tell people, instead of buying your toilet paper or your paper towels that month, your cleaning supplies, buy it through your business. Have your business work for you. So now you're going to pay that money anyway and spend the money on the product no matter what. So you might as well have it benefit you. And so what we do, once we get you this DUNS number, these vendors will give you the product up front. You pay it within 30 days. And then we actually guarantee our clients 75 or higher PAYDEX score, which is like a 775 to 850 in the FICO world. So by having that credit score, now you can use that on applications. You can perhaps get some alternate funding. An example, and again, I'm not afraid to share my story because I think it's a positive one. I built the credit. I got a $40,000 loan in 2013 that we turned into a nice 7-figure that first year, and we've continued to grow from there. But without that opportunity, I don't know where I would be today. And so because I had so much experience from 2005 to 2013 in the corporate world building credit, I was able to do it for myself. And then that opened up the doors and got my computers, it got my phones, and really got me off the ground. So if you do have an existing business and you've never built credit, I can almost guarantee you could go look at DMB or a platform, and you're not going to show that there's any history. So we proactively help our clients create that history. So later on down the road, the middle of next year, their credit score is high enough that on the application, they can put that they have A+ business credit, and that is only going to benefit you. So I just want to talk about that briefly. A lot of people think maybe we're a lender, maybe we work with credit cards because of the name, but this has always been our baby. We do have CCI Accounting and Tax LLC, MJ Audit and Consulting. So we have different entities, but this is always will be my brand, and Corporate Capital. It was our original name. Again, we have different DBAs and such, but I just wanted to clarify the name and explain that to you. And the reason we did that is because that was the success that we experienced, and the only reason why I'm at where I'm at 11 years later. So
if you've been watching the news headlines, you know that the world's top CEOs, biggest investors, family offices, ultra affluent, and political elite are all moving to cash. Why? They're building up their war chest to go buy assets at a significant discount in the coming months. They are warehousing their capital in vehicles that have stood the test of time for 170 years with institutions that have made good on their promises for 170 years. If you're interested to learn how to build your own banking system using the infinite banking concept, just like all of these parties, you can watch a presentation at yourownbankingsystem.com. That's yourownbankingsystem.com. So what are some of the asset protection and estate planning strategies that you can share with my listeners and viewers?
Yes. So we offer a ton of different trust services here. Myself personally, again, using as an example, I have two trusts. So I have a Nevada Asset Protection Trust, which is an irrevocable trust. So the grantor, so with an irrevocable trust, you can't change the grantor or the beneficiary. So that's why some people are hesitant to form an irrevocable trust. Now that's true in states like Colorado or Florida or different states, but in Nevada, and again, I have several clients from this platform that I have helped set up the asset protection trust. And so that trust is irrevocable with revocable privileges. So tax wise, the money doesn't stay in there. It can flow back to the individual or the company. So you don't pay any higher tax because of it. What it's there for is strictly asset protection. So what I have done is, like the business interest that I have, you issue the business interest to this asset protection trust. Anything that's inside of this trust is protected after a 2-year look back period, and 2 years goes by pretty quick. So once you get the certificates issued, you also could do your policy directly inside of the asset protection trust, which I strongly recommend, because now you have this policy that's going to build cash value and your brokerage account. You can do anything inside of this trust, and you can pull the cash value out anytime. You can transfer a real property and sell it out of the trust at any time. So nothing is stuck in there like a black hole. So because of these unique privileges, you're able to protect everything. But because of the unique privileges, the way that it was able to be approved for the last 40 years is that you can't change the grantor and you can't change the beneficiary. So what we do for our clients is we make the beneficiary MC the revocable living trust. Now, the revocable living trust, obviously, even if you don't have things to protect and you're on this podcast, if you're married, if you have kids, even if you have one home, I recommend having a revocable living trust. Your revocable living trust, you can still put all those assets in there that I mentioned, your businesses, your policies, your personal residence. But typically, the only thing that I recommend putting in your revocable living trust is your personal residence, because for the interest write-offs, and it's easier because it's your personal residence. And in most states, like Nevada, if you homestead your property, you can protect up to $630,000 of equity. So if you haven't homestead your property, that's another little free tip. I would look at homestead, even if you don't do a trust, because the state you're in offers a certain dollar amount of protection. So if a creditor does come after you, you actually don't get forced to take out a HELOC or sell the home. So homestead is very powerful, especially in Nevada and California. Both of those states are over 600,000. Then you have Colorado that I think is like 20 grand. I'm like, what? Seriously? Why is it so low there compared to every other state? So typically we'll just have the personal residence put in there. And then that's the trust that will have the dynasty language that will live on forever. If you want to have all of your assets distributed upon your passing, you can do that. Or we can have language in there where it's a dynasty trust where you can allocate 50% a year and then 50% back to your policy. So that can live on for generation and generation. So you can do that in either vehicle. The reason why I like the asset protection trust is we can put the same language in there, which is an irrevocable trust from the beginning. And then now that policy stays in there, you have your kids, your living trust as the beneficiary. So as that continues to grow, your beneficiaries will get whatever you allocate to them. But now that policy is 100% protected after that 2-year look back period. All of the shares of your company are protected. So if I ever get sued personally, I don't own corporate capital stock. It's in this trust and it's been in there for 10 years. So I don't own it. So I don't even have to say that I own the shares of corporate capital. So this trust is strictly for asset protection, but you can put your brokerage account in there. You can do your policies. You can own your business. I have guns. I have cash in mine. So now anything that's inside of there is protected. Now, when I talk about trust, I'm very passionate about, at a minimum, the revocable living trust. As a dad and a father of 4 kids, I feel that obligation. An example, again, I'm big on examples, like real life stories. My cousin on my wife's side last April, his mom and dad both died, same month. They didn't have a living trust. They didn't have a bank account. They didn't own a car. They had $8,000 under their mattress, and they owned a home that actually was worth $450. So there was $150K in equity. They didn't have a living trust. So there was no direction of where the property was going to go. The son had a hard time grieving, a little drinking, a little procrastination. So by the time he called 23 law firms in Nevada, the cheapest retainer he could find was $10,000 for one personal residence. No bank account, no vehicles, because it goes off of assets as far as what the retainer will be. And so now he ended up having to pay 10 grand. And long story short, they foreclosed on the home. He lost that home. He lost 150,000. He lives paycheck to paycheck. It could have done a lot for him. But because the parents didn't have the living trust, they put it on the son. And that's what we do as parents, is if we don't have that trust in place, we're putting it on the kids to find the probate attorney, hopefully finding a good one. But you can literally set up, even the example I gave with my cousin, who parents only had one property. A living trust is nearly a third of that example. And so I tell people, a living trust never dies. You just have to make sure that you put the assets in there. So we help you quick claim your property into the trust. We help you go through the corporate record book. I have a bunch of record books back here behind me for our clients. And so inside those record books, we would have you go through and issue the certificates, or we do meeting minutes if you do have a company to help you assign the interest to this trust. And then anything that you do, your investments, you would contact us, and my attorney would be a distribution trustee for you. So what that means is you call him, say, hey, how do I distribute this asset? I need to transfer it from the trust. And so that gives you the separation too of being the grantor and being the one making the decisions of transferring out the money. So he's a distribution trustee. Now I'll address this. I've been doing this 11 years. I've never said no to anyone asking for a distribution. But again, you want to make sure if you're looking to protect yourself and do it right, you have to have that separation. Otherwise, it's all you. So we provide that service for you. And then if we do the asset protection trust, we only charge $300 a year to maintain being the trustee of that trust. But with that, the attorney's always on retainer. You can always ask questions anytime you need a distribution. Again, we're not here to make your life difficult. That is the best vehicle. Now we also, and these are more conversations that I like to talk one-on-one about, but we can help set up charitable remainder trusts, kind of go over the benefit of the tax deduction, who the beneficiaries can be, whether it's a trust or yourself or children. And then we also have set up life insurance trusts, some ILITs in the past, again, depending on your situation, depending on what you have in place and what you are projecting, we will typically just take it case by case. And in some cases, we just have clients that just need the living trust. I get it. And then there's a lot of people that I've talked to that obviously have a very good portfolio and they're looking to protect things. And that asset protection trust is the best vehicle that you can do inside of the States, not worry about anything offshore, not worry about anything like that, not worry about, getting hit with this high trust tax. I've been doing it for 20 years. I personally have one. My trust just distributes everything back out to me individually and files the return. It equals out and everything flows back to me the same way you're doing it now through your business or individually. But the difference will be now you can protect these assets. So if you have paintings, if you have patents, trademarks, brokerage accounts, policies, business interests, all of that stuff should be in the asset protection trust. And then since we make the living trust the beneficiary, guys, you can change the beneficiary inside of a revocable trust anytime you want. So I had a client in Arizona. He's worth 20 mil, 90 years old. He's changed his living trust multiple times. He's actually disinherited his 4 biological children now. He's disinherited 7 of the grandchildren, and he's leaving the entire estate to 3 grandkids. So that would have never freaking happened if he would have passed away. That money would have gone to his biological kids at a minimum. But he didn't want that because of their personal challenges and such. So he wanted to go to the 3 kids that graduated from Stanford and different schools that he knew would continue to grow what this guy's been doing since he was 14. And that's the power of having the living trust. Make sure that your assets go to your beneficiaries. If you have 4 kids like my parents do, it's being split 25, 25, 25. If you have certain items like jewelry, you can put one piece of jewelry in there and assign it to Elisa and one to Jamie. You get to have that control within that document. And obviously, as you know, if you need that document, we can't go back and create it because we're deceased or we're not of a sound mind. So we still have to be of a sound mind to put these types of trusts together. The asset protection trust, anyone that is looking to do a policy, I would really encourage you to at least have a consultation with me about that to see if that trust vehicle makes sense. If not, you can do it in your own name. But I just want to go over all the pros and cons and let you see what that future would look like, especially if we're looking at generational, wealth and generational growth. Not only do I want to have it to where it's reinvested every year, but where it's protected. And that's exactly what this trust will do for you.
Any comments on the changes January 1st, 2026, and with the estate tax exemption? Because this is, I want to emphasize that this is something that people need to be proactive on. If you have a net worth over $10 million, I would say it's time to be very proactive for the changes happening down the road.
Currently, right now, it's 13 million per individual, 26 million or a little over 26 if you're married. And yeah, they are looking to eliminate that, bring that way down. It was at 3 million for years. Then it went to 11. Everyone got excited. And then it went to 26. And all of us are on this podcast because we're successful or we want success. Otherwise, you wouldn't be taking the time to, follow MC. That's what we want our clients to do as well. So as you start to grow your portfolio, if implementing a charitable remainder trust or like a life insurance trust, if that makes sense, we will tell you exactly why and give you approximate numbers and say this will be the difference if the estate tax remains here, if we continue to grow, or with what your current portfolio looks like. And I mean this with all sincerity. What you see is what you get. When you call me, we'll have a conversation. Same with Jamie and Flo. We'll present you with the answers, no strings attached. If we can help you, great. If you become a client, obviously that's fantastic. But I promised MC that we would do that for, if 30 people called, none of them signed up, we would provide them the education on the BOI, talk to them about their trust, just provide that value, because ultimately, if it makes sense, I know there's a good opportunity of us working together. But that's what I want to do, is just make sure that it makes sense. The stuff that you already have in place, does it make sense? Are you in compliance? Have you filed those BOI reports? So what makes us unique is we offer all these services under one roof. So you're one phone call away from talking to your corporate consultant or your CPA, accountant, attorney. And a lot of clients really like that. And so that was my vision with my wife in 2013, is to have everything under one roof, because, doing taxes is residual and being a registered agent is residual. So obviously you want to maintain that relationship with customers. And some of the best service that we offer and some of the best guidance, in my opinion, is the tax planning. Because so many people, when I have done these, we get probably 10 to 15 people that have emailed that are specifically interested about like the Augusta rule or the kids. Because a lot of CPAs accounts they've worked with in the past have mentioned nothing they don't care. I shouldn't say they don't care. They might not know about it. But some people at the same time, for efficiency and to maximize your, profit and loss, they'll just take numbers, plug them in because you did your own accounting, and then they spit out the return. If you do that, you might as well use like an H&R Block, in my opinion, because now you're not getting any guidance and you can get it done for a lot cheaper, as opposed to, you should have the relationship with your accountant that if you do have questions, if you are in this position where you're paying high tax at the end of the year, look at implementing some of those strategies. Whether you call them direct and ask them these questions of education, or if you want to reach out to us, we'd be more than happy to go over your scenario. How many corporations, LLCs do you have in place, if any yet? What are you looking to accomplish? And then we support, basically everything to make sure that, MC and his team can do their job very well, very easily. We're very quick at what we do. So if you, for example, if you needed an LLC in Wyoming, it would take me about a half hour to get everything formed, get the articles, the EIN, and the operating agreement over to you. So we work with a lot of lenders across the country too. When their borrowers call, they're like, hey, I need an LLC, single purpose. We'll do the articles. We'll get everything done, emailed over to the lender so they can start working on the loan. So if there's anything that you're delaying or anything that we can be of assistance or just answer some questions, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you directly. Unless we get too many people that call at the same time, then expect something from maybe Flo or Jamie. But their background, Flo was one of our original founders with my wife and I in 2013, and Jamie is a current partner. So your audience, MC, will only work with the principals of this company. They will never work with a regular consultant or someone who answers the phones, okay?
Where can folks follow you guys, and where can they get in touch and learn more about all of your services that you're offering?
Yeah, well, let me give you this phone number first that I dedicated for MC, because I want to know when people are calling from this, because obviously the content of what we discussed. So the phone number, 855-316-4425. And then, so again, 855-316-4425. So that's the dedicated phone number that will be for MC. And then if they just send an email, info, I-N-F-O, at corp, which is C-O-R-P, cap, C-A-P, Inc., Inc.com. So Brent at CorpCap Inc., or sorry, info at CorpCapInc.com, or you can even use my first name, Brent, at CorpCapInc.com. Please do me a favor, though. I have a couple assistants. If you can at least email and CC Taylor, which is Taylor at CorpCapInc.com. You can email any of those addresses. If you do the info ad, it will go to all of us. If you send something directly to me, just please CC my assistant, and she'll be sure to respond same day and start to get you on our calendar. And then our website is www.corpcapinc.com. So the same as the email domain. So CorpCapinc.com. And then we have Facebook, we have our Google reviews, we have LinkedIn. So we have all of those platforms as well, Yelp. So they could find us on any of those. But a lot of our clients that we work with directly will, do a lot of the testimonials directly on our website. So the website's a good place to go because all of the different places you can follow us, MC, are actually iconed at the top of the webpage. So then they can click and go check out Facebook or check out testimonials or whatever they need to look at before they call.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing so much valuable information and providing so much value for all of my listeners and viewers.
Thank you, MC. I appreciate it.
And thank you to all of my listeners and my viewers for spending your most valuable resource, your time, once again with me on the show. Everything Cashflow Ninja is at cashflowninja.com. That's cashflowninja.com. We've got podcasts, books, reports, webinars, and much, much more. Everything at cashflowninja.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the #1 newsletter in the alternative wealth strategy and alternative asset investing space, the Wealth Dojo. You can subscribe to the Wealth Dojo by going to cashflowninja.com/subscribe. Until next time, live infinitely. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.